Aye, shepherd's pie, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel for a walk and a talk. Might be a difficult video to make today because it's very windy, so I can't go down my usual tracks because it's too windy. So I'm gonna have to go a different route, which may be full of roosters, dogs it would appear, and cicadas. But we will give it a go. It might work, might not. Doesn't work, you probably never get to see the video. Anyway, we'll have a little talk today about something which is, in my opinion, and it's an opinion I have formed over time, a real present danger in the Philippines, which has come as a surprise to me. It really has, over the last few months, because, and anyone who watches this channel for a while will know, I'm not in the business of peddling shock stories, of trying to promote stories of nightmares or potential dangers or whatever just for the sake of clicks. Because I don't like doing that, because I think it creates a false narrative. I think it creates a negative picture of the Philippines. Yeah, things happen here in terms of, you know, there will be occasions where some guy has fallen out with his girlfriend or whatever and he's ended up in prison for some ridiculous allegation. There are people that, you know, lose their property and land because relatives come out. My dog's here now. I'm a bit distracted because of false claims for land and all the rest of it. You know, bad choices and girlfriends and wives who bleed their husbands dry and they lose everything. Yeah, it happens. Of course it happens. But doesn't happen, in my opinion, as often as many, for whatever reason, would like you to believe. But there are some legitimate concerns over it. Spoken about them before. Healthcare. Healthcare is a real issue over here. If you've got a serious heart condition or a serious life-threatening condition that requires the best healthcare, Philippines might not be for you. That is a legitimate concern. It's a real danger, potentially. Also, the roads. I've spoken about them before. The roads, in many ways, are a wild, wild west here. So you've got to be careful. I've always thought that if I, you know, when I come unstuck here, it'll be on my scooter. You know, I'm going to have an accident at some stage. Everyone does. You know, half the people on the roads here can't drive, don't have lights, etc. Traffic can get heavy. You know, that is a danger. I know a lot of people who have had accidents over here. I'm going to turn the camera around now because you don't want to just look at me. Another one that seems to concern a lot of people is crime, violent robbery, kidnappings, things of that nature. Look, someone's getting ready with the old turkeys for Christmas. You know, you see a lot of videos on that. Again, it's not a subject I've ever touched upon because it can happen anywhere in the world. I have never felt threatened by Filipinos going to ATMs or, you know, doing my business at any time of night, anywhere in Asia, to be honest. I've never worried about being kidnapped. Can happen in any country. You know, a lot of Western cities that I've lived in the past, I have felt more potentially unsafe there than I ever have in the Philippines. And in all my time in Dumaguete, or in the Philippines, that's only 2 years, but I talk to a lot of people, you get chatting, you know, they tell you things that have happened over the last 10 years. Very, very, very rare, if ever, someone tells you about being robbed at knife point or gunpoint by an ATM. In fact, it's never happened. I've never heard of it. I'm not saying it hasn't happened here, but it's not happened to anyone I know. I've never been told a story about that. You know, so yeah, talk about it. Obviously, Some cities are going to be worse than others, but certainly my experience of the Philippines, totally not an issue. However, what is an issue, which people don't seem to talk about, and I use the term again, a clear and present danger, is other expats. And I'm surprised by this. And as time has gone by, I've come to realise it is a lot more prevalent than one might think. Certainly more than I ever thought. Because it happens a lot. Anyone who's watched the channel for a while will know I had issues when I was over in Sikihor, when I got attacked by my crazy neighbour who tried to do me in one night when I was coming home with a weapon. But I put that down to his mental illness. I didn't put that down to, you know, being a threat other than him and a one-off situation. And given the way the other expats acted on Sikihor, I thought it was one-off. But when I started talking, people started asking me about that incident. They started telling me about stories about other things that happened in Sikihor. Other attacks, other things, other serious injuries that have been inflicted. And they were all by expats. And that got me thinking. Didn't know Sikihor was like that. Now, I did an interview the other day for Paul's channel, Paul Asian Adventures. He interviewed me about my experience with my stalker in Sikihor. And after that, I got talking to some friends that evening. They asked what I'd been interviewed about. I told them. And then they started telling me some stories about things that happened. And the reality is, when I thought about it over the next few days, in a sleepy hollow like Dumaguete, there have been a hell of a lot of incidents that people don't really hear about or don't talk about. And I know you've got to be careful how you word these things on YouTube, because you can get strikes and things. You're supposed to say ending people as opposed to the M word, etc. Oh, I don't care, I'll just say it how it is. A hell of a lot has happened here. A hell of a lot happens quite regularly in terms of violence between expats. And it doesn't seem to be, the majority of the time, reciprocal. You know, these are, on the whole, unprovoked attacks. For no rhyme or reason other than the aggressor clearly has mental issues of some kind. And the more I thought about it, I think it is probably as big a threat or danger. I was going to come down here, but this big cow is obviously not happy about me coming down here, and I don't want to upset him, and I don't want to get charged. But you know, in all reality, it has shocked me, because it got me thinking. Some of the stories they told me. Now, obviously, you've got to take anecdotal stories with a pinch of salt, but I know some of the protagonists in these incidents, and since I have been here, there have been a number of incidents like that I am aware of, a couple I witnessed, and you put it all together, you start to think, Dumaguete, Sikihor, perhaps the Philippines as a whole, I don't know, violence is higher, or violent incidents are higher than you would expect. And that's not an exaggeration, but it's not Filipinos robbing or mugging or attacking, you know, Westerners. It's Westerners attacking other Westerners. Because I say, just in my own experience, I've been here. I've got a very good friend who was attacked, unprovoked attack in a bar a few months back, and hurt quite badly by another expat. Now, there will be a tendency, some people are going to say, because you do get the old, he's going a bit fast, you do get the old holier than thous. Won't have to blur their faces out because they've got masks on. You'll get some people, I've had it before, say, oh, what do you expect if you hang around in bars and you do all this and you do all that and you know, you're bringing it on yourselves? Well, that's not always the case. I know a guy so I'm not going to mention names on this video because it's a small community, who not so long ago was driving along, doesn't drink, with his family, and there was a road rage incident. Guy cut him off, nearly forced him off the road, then pulled up, started remonstrating at him, trying to blame him for the accident, and then before you know it, pulled out a knife and attacked him, cut him several times. You know, that was nothing to do with drinking in bars. That was nothing to do with, you know, associating in bad company. And I know several instances. I know, again, I'm not going to name people, 3 people in the 2 years I've been here who have been attacked by other Westerners in similar situations, as in traffic incidents. No alcohol involved, no bars, no, you know, bar fights. And again, you look at the Mark Thornton incident. You know, not going to bring that one up, but I mean, that was in a coffee shop, and that's a bit different. I mean, that seemed to have been an altercation, a fight, you know, between 2 guys. I mean, that would happen anywhere. But the point I'm getting at is, there are a hell of a lot, it would appear, of very angry expats who will just go off at the flick of a switch. Clearly got deep-seated issues. I mean, now I'm talking about it, I can think of more incidents. The trouble is, most of the things have been in a bar setting. So as I say, people will say that it's because of the alcohol, etc. But those incidents have not been, you know, 2 drunken people fighting. They have been an either intoxicated person or mentally unstable person being the aggressor towards someone who wasn't drunk, was just minding their own business. A couple of the quiz nights have ended in blows. And as I say, you know, I have lived in rough places. You know, I grew up in some rough places. I worked in the security industry for 14 plus years, and before that I was in the military police. So these kinds of incidents at the time don't shock me. I kind of dismiss them. I take the attitude, I've seen worse, you know. But when you put it together and you talk to people, it shouldn't be happening anywhere near as much as it is in Dumaguete, given the demographic in terms of the age of the people here. And again, it's a strange thing because it seems to get covered up. Not talking about the vloggers, there are a number of cases going through the courts at the moment where firearms and things have been used amongst other expats, but for some reason it doesn't, you know, and other weapons. And you know, when you break it down, you start talking to people, it is actually quite shocking how many of these incidents have taken place, both while I was here or in the years before, but preceding years. And it makes you wonder why. Because it's, I say, it's not something you expect here. I don't think any of the people that have been attacked would have seen it coming, because it doesn't have that kind of feel here. It's a very relaxed place. Whenever I have seen things happen, you think, where the hell did that come from? Kind of comes out the blue, you know, and you can only conclude that there are a number of Westerners, expats, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, who do seem to have serious mental issues here. And my own conclusion to that is, I'm not suggesting, you know, I don't know, I haven't studied them, you know, I'm not gonna diagnose these people, but I do get the sense that they brought their issues with them. Don't think on the whole, there might be exceptions, that there are, it's the Philippines that has made them that way. I just start to think there are a number of people here who couldn't function in their home countries or had issues in their home countries, and maybe they potentially came to the Philippines to escape those issues or to attempt to start again. And it hasn't worked. They brought the baggage with them. Now, as I say, I'm not making this video to try and scare anyone. You know, it hasn't changed my opinion of the Philippines. I don't go out at night frightened or give it much thought. That's only the last few days when I was thinking of content, and you know, you got there, and I thought, no, well, wait a minute, this is actually, you know, it's like I said many moons ago, I did a thing on the motorbikes, you know. I know a lot of people who have died and had serious accidents here, you know. It's a small community. I know 5 people who've had very serious motorbike accidents, a couple have been killed. Now, people dismissed that when I did the video. That's a high percentage, you know, in a small population like this. Say I know, I don't know, 100, 200 people here. 5 of them have died in motorbike accidents. To me, that's a hell of a lot higher proportion than in any other country that I've lived in. And to say, in my group of people who are predominantly 60 plus, average age, I mean the youngest are probably in their 40s, but most of the guys I know are 60 plus. To think that maybe 10, 11, 12 of them have been attacked or involved in violent incidents. I mean, a couple of them, they were fights, you know, just 2 guys against each other, probably too much alcohol. But yeah, just attacked out of the blue. That's a bloody high number. Now, say, I'm not trying to put anyone off coming here. I wouldn't, you know, hasn't put me off, hasn't put anyone I know off, you know, it's, you know, I'm not trying to, I'm just saying how it is. It surprises me that other channels, other people haven't talked about it, because they seem preoccupied by a lot of channels pushing the locals, the Filipinos as being the danger. They're the ones that are going to scam you. They're the ones that are going to attack you and rob you and try and do you harm. And it's not my opinion at all. Not my opinion at all. And I am a little bit more cautious now when I go out, I'll be honest with you now. The thing over in Dumaguete, in Sigil, didn't bother me at all. I know some people find it hard to believe. Water off a duck's back, been and gone. But I do find myself now when I'm doing the quizzes and things like that. And it's not through fear of being attacked, it's more of I'm running the quiz. I don't want to cause a problem because it will ruin the quiz, and I'm good friends with the owner, you, and it will spoil everyone's night. So I find myself biting my tongue a hell of a lot more than I did or would have done in my youth. Just because I know that there are a lot of people here who get very, very, very upset very quickly over, pardon the pun, trivia night. But it's the reality. A lot of people fly off the handle here for no reason. Now, a lot of people will say in the comments, well, I'll get some, well, not a lot of people, not many people watch my videos these days, who will say, yeah, stay away from expats, you know, etc, etc. Well, you can't do that, not in my opinion. I don't want to stay away from expats. I enjoy socialising with my friends. The idea of living here and not socialising with my friends and avoiding expats, no, not for me. I wouldn't be here if that was the case. So, and I'm not over exaggerating. I'm not trying to scare anyone out of coming here. I'm just having a chat on a walk and a talk and saying, yeah, you do have to watch what you say here, and you do have to be on your guard. And the other thing that puzzles me about these incidents is the lack of interest that the authorities seem to have here. It has blown my mind, the stories I've been told about people and the things they have been accused of and the things they have been found guilty of. And they're still here. Nothing happened to them. You know, it's a bit like that lunatic over there. Everyone was like, oh, what he's done for you, he'll be deported, you know, he tried to kill you and all the rest of it, and they'll kick him out of the country, he'll be gone in 24 hours. The police didn't care, you know, and the 2 or 3 of the, you know, I'm telling you about some of the incidents I've heard and some of the things happened to my friends. Same person's done it to a few people. You know, it's, police are aware, they know what's happened. The forces that be in a couple of the cases have taken up a prosecution and things, and at the end of it, nothing ever happened. Now, I find that strange. You think they would want these people out the country, but whether there's money involved or whatever, I don't know. But the worry is, or the thing you think about it, someone keeps doing it and they keep getting away with it, then surely that will encourage them to do it again. But as I say, don't let it put you off coming to the Philippines. As long as you keep yourself, just be conscious that it is a fact. A couple of times recently, in the last few months, I have been in an incident where I've been driving a scooter and someone has, I don't know, always a Westerner, angry Westerner, has shouted at me in a abusive way. And my first instinct, particularly as one in the car park the other week, was to park up the bike and go up to him and say, who the hell do you think you're talking to? What's your problem? But I didn't. I just let it go. Because don't want the hassle. And I still have it in my mind, even though I know people don't seem to get in trouble here. I think I don't want to get deported. I don't want to get kicked out, rolling around on the ground with some idiot in a truck. And I'm quite sure they wouldn't have done. You know what these people are like, the ones that shout their mouths. If you go and front them, 9 times out of 10, they'll just suddenly become apologetic. But anyway, I'm past that now. I'm 53 years old. But when I see people reacting like that, I do think, where has the anger come from? I am the most relaxed I've ever been since I've the last few months living here. And most of my friends are. In fact, all my friends are. That's why my friends, they are very relaxed, laid back, nothing phases them. They go with the flow. They love the slow pace of the Philippines. That's what we all enjoy. But a lot of people, despite the laid back living, despite the fact that they're supposedly living the dream, boiling away under the surface is a lot of anger. Lot of anger. But there you go, you know, as I say, it is, I'm not exaggerating this. You know, you can draw your own conclusions. A lot of you will say, oh, it's not really an issue. A lot of you will jump on it and say it's all booze and things like that, you know. It's just a reality. It's a reality. Because they don't make a fuss about it, because they don't, you know, tend to report these things. But there's another thing, there have been a couple of incidents where Filipinos have been ended by other Filipinos. I say, there is trouble here between Filipinos. You know, you get incidents like that. But it's not Filipinos against Westerners. And what surprised me about that is, it's I don't know if it's kept quiet, or it's just not reported, or I'm not reading, you know, the sites that will tell you about that. But I found out there was a murder here several months ago at the local cockpit. We only found out about that when the neighbour was talking to Ellen about it. There's been a few incidents like that, you know, Filipinos have done, trying to avoid using the term, but you know, people have met their end at the other hands of Filipinos. And it's not been, you know, not been a big talking point. It's just heard it from the neighbours. And when I've mentioned it to people, did you know this happened or whatever, you know, when I'm out and about, never heard of it, know nothing about it. So, you know, it's a kind of, if you don't see it and you don't know about it, it never happened. So given that, it's hard to really know just how big the problem is. Because the expat community, it's not cliquey, but people tend to move in certain circles. So the incidents I'm aware of and I know about are in my circles. But there are a lot of other circles here where I don't know the people, I don't socialise with the people. They've probably got as many tales to tell as I've heard about or I've witnessed. But there's no way of counting them all up, you know, knowing how prevalent the problem is. But it's strange, and the reason I'm talking about it is I feel incredibly safe here. I do. I feel incredibly relaxed. I like the freedom here, but based on the number of incidents that I have witnessed and am aware of, it's actually a hell of a lot of a more dangerous place probably than many of the other places that I've lived in. And it's surprising, and that is not an exaggeration. I have still got friends in London. I don't go back there often, but I've got friends I talk to, you know, on Skype, and we chat away, etc. And they're all my age. Some a bit younger, some a little bit older. Hello, hi. In the time I have been here, and I've spoken to them all the time, I've never heard of any of them being attacked or assaulted or getting in a fight in a bar. And they're living in, like, you know, parts of London which are potentially a bit rough. In fact, any of my friends in the country, I can't remember the last time one of my friends in the UK said, oh, I got attacked, or this happened, or he got attacked, or whatever. You know, just isn't a thing. So, you know, it's... And I think that's the strange thing about it, because you go out in certain parts of the world, you'll feel an undertone, you'll think, right, I've got to be on my guard here. I can sense that this place has the potential for danger. But it doesn't happen. Here, you never get that feeling. I never get that feeling. I've never had that feeling. But the reality is, it does have the potential. And it can happen. And it can happen incredibly quickly when no one expects it. Which is strange. As I say, unfortunately, I think there are a high percentage of damaged souls here who have brought their baggage with them. Anyway, let me know what you think. Is it just a doomy-getty thing? And suppose, you know, perhaps a sicky whore thing? Is it the same on every island? Don't say I'm making it up, it's not true, because it is. I'm not in the business of making things up. So I don't have any empirical evidence to go along with it, but in reality, someone asked me what the biggest dangers were in the Philippines. Now, after being here a while and considering it, I would say it's the expats and the roads. Certainly the reality of life in Doomagetty. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hold on a second. There you go. I will sign off with a smile. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fantastic if you did. But whether you do, whether you don't, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, stay safe, be lucky.